Let's talk about the lie of looking good. 1 year ago, on paper, I was the blueprint of success. I was at the SBE Expo teaching CEOs how to integrate AI. My podcast was exploding with 23,000 subscribers in a year. I was playing in golf tournaments on top of being married to an incredible man. From the outside, it looked like I had won. That's what the world saw. But there's a massive difference between achieving and thriving. And while the world saw a boss bitch, excuse my French, what they didn't see was my nervous system was a war zone. I was living in a state of existential tiredness, the kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot touch. I was experiencing the internal drag. Have you ever been there? Where you're achieving every milestone, but yet your soul is screaming for the exit. We don't just wake up one day and decide to become exhausted. Exhaustion comes from how we are programmed. And my programming started from before I was even born. My parents had lost their first son, the heir, and they kept trying for another one. And when it came to me, the doctors told my mother I was a boy when I was in her belly. I was the replacement. I was the placeholder. But when I came out a girl, the blueprint changed. I subconsciously realized that in order to be worthy, I had to be exceptional. I had to be the son that they lost. After my parents split, I grew up in a household of false normalcy. My dad, a doctor, a man of status, gave us the bare minimum. I was 6 years old in Baltimore, longing for a man who lived in New York while we were months behind on the mortgage and sometimes didn't have enough money for groceries. Later on, I learned how to bury my emotions to survive the alcoholic rages of a stepfather and the psychological control of a very religious mother in a cultist church. Along the way, I adopted a rule that I believed helped me, but ended up almost killing me. I have to be okay. And it worked for some time. At 21, I survived a near-death car accident where my father told me if I would have died, he wouldn't have paid for my funeral and that he would cremate me. I had to be okay so that I could become successful so my father could forgive me. At 23, I was able to work at McKinsey and travel the world, while simultaneously taking care of my sister with schizophrenia for 10 years. I had to be okay. I couldn't jeopardize my success. At 25, I survived my younger brother breaking my hand and my father taking his side. I had to be okay. I thought I was strong. I really did, but I wasn't strong. I was numb. And for years, I believed I silenced the truth, but the universe always has a microphone. And the universe, or God, or sometimes what I like to refer him to as the great attractor, doesn't always speak in whispers. Sometimes it speaks in your biology. And for me, in 2021, my body began to revolt. Shingles at age 31, chronic pain, memory loss. I had unplugged from my life because the trauma was too heavy to carry. That's the reality of complex PTSD. It's not a mindset issue, it's a hardware failure. I was an ambitious person who felt stuck and also had a complicated relationship with God. I grew up living off of self-help books instead of church to help me get through tough times. But it was at this point that the self-help books were not enough. It was 2023, I decided to embark on a spiritual journey. I wanted to experience that blissful state of peace that they talk about. And I wanted to know what my purpose was in the world. And because I felt so empty for so long. And the question of why am I here started to become louder. Little did I know, this spiritual journey ended up including a deep dive in philosophy, theology, and giving myself permission to go on an intensive process of peeling back each layer of pain, processing the memories as they arose, and letting go. I was so determined to find the truth of what I am and why I'm here on this earth. This was the beginning of my old identity starting to crack. And yet, I started experiencing little miracles and synchronicities the more I let go of the old me. It was those synchronicities that helped me to keep going, to keep holding on, and to trust the process. I had built a life on a foundation of survival, and it was cracking. Survival was a low-frequency state. That was the old identity I was shedding. You cannot build a masterpiece on a foundation of fear because it catches up with you. And around this time last year, the old identity, the mirage, had shattered completely. Regardless of me hitting milestone after milestone, the nights of crying alone started building up. I started getting intense tightness in my chest. I had no appetite. I couldn't sleep. My client work had become very intense, working 12 to 15-hour days, and I just heard news of my brother being arrested. Everything was becoming heavier, heavier, and heavier. And one particular day, when I was hanging on by a thread, it was one of those long, grueling days that make you question if all of this is even worth it, that I got a text from my dad. My dad had asked me to help my brother, the brother who had assaulted me. And it was in this particular moment when everything clicked. I had been killing myself chasing success to prove to a man that I was worthy of his love too, to prove that I mattered too. But I really didn't matter to him, not like his son. And that's when the collapse started to happen. What am I living for? What's the purpose of me being on this earth? I don't matter and I never will. Why am I here? Those were the thoughts that were flooding my mind, swarming my mind completely. And each wave of those thoughts hitting me made me want to isolate myself. And so I did. My husband knew I was upset and was trying to be with me, but I had convinced him I was going to take a shower and that I would be okay. I was alone in the bathroom on the floor, with so many tears running down my face. I was experiencing intense pain and tightness in my chest. It felt as if someone grabbed my heart and was twisting it and stabbing it at the same time. I had never experienced such severe pain before. It was unbearable. I wanted to rip my heart out. I was in so much pain. The pain was so great that the thought of putting a gun to my head felt like relief. And we had a gun right on the other side of the bathroom door. I was going between begging God to take my life and wanting to take it myself. I was so tired. And in that abyss, there was a pivot. Not a sermon, not a choir of angels, just a quiet internal shift. A voice in the back of my head, that part of us that's connected to the divine infinite, said, endure. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command. It was the realization that my life didn't belong to my father, not my brother, or my clients. It belonged to something greater that I didn't quite understand at the time. The next morning, I woke up disappointed to be alive. But that disappointment was day zero of me offloading the program that I thought I needed and finally allowed myself to start developing my authentic self. I stopped trying to hustle my way out of trauma and started strategizing my way in towards healing. I sought out neuromodulation and TMS. I used neuroscience to regulate a nervous system that had been stuck in fight or flight for 30 years. I was building from fear and not feeling good enough, but now it was time to start building from choice and unconditional love towards myself. So I started making choices. I chose to play the piano again, reclaiming my joy. I chose Thank you. I chose to play golf, reclaiming my focus. And I chose to set boundaries that were non-negotiable, reclaiming my power. The success I have now is not a mask, it's an overflow. My consulting firm is thriving, not because I'm building from a place of not enough, but because I'm building from a place of alignment. The great attractor used the loss of that first son, the neglect of Baltimore, or the neglect of my father, the chaos of Baltimore, as resistance training for the women that's standing before you today. And I'm sharing this with you because I know there are many successful people here in this room, but yet are feeling suffocated. That you think you're stuck because of your past, your parents, your circumstances, but you're not stuck. You're just in the in-between phase. You're in the resistance. That urge to change that you're feeling is not a threat. It's a call to adventure. It's the divine architect telling you that the shack you've been living in is too small for the person you're becoming. You have the power of choice. You don't have to do it alone. You need a system, you need a community, and you need to look at those hidden, uncomfortable things that you've pushed aside for so long and realize that those are the keys to your kingdom. So where are you on the spectrum between surviving and thriving? That silent partner in your life is knocking. It's asking you to stop being the placeholder for everyone else and start being the architect of your own existence. I chose to endure. I chose to heal. I chose to live. Now, what will you choose? Thank you.